Friday afternoon, everyone. Zach and Matt here again for another Friday at the MSP Cyber Roundtable. Last week we had Alex Farling and Wes Spencer from Empath Cyber. If you haven't checked that out already, we're excited for this conversation today with Mike and Brian. Glad that you guys could be here. Awesome. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Zach.
Good,
Living
man.
it up.
Living the dream. Glad to be here talking about my favorite thing, making more money.
Yeah.
There you go. How have your guys' weeks been? Anything exciting going on?
The hockey season has started, so Canada is on fire right now. Loving the Toronto Maple Leafs. Shout out Toronto Maple Leafs. This is our year.
I am excited about that as well.
Way to go, Maple Leafs. I have no dog in that fight, so I'll just bet on your dog. Way to go, Maple Leafs.
Thank you. We need as much help as we can get.
Mike and I have been spending the week prepping an event. I know it's not plug. I don't really want to turn into a plug, but we're working on something at IT Nation.
Okay. Well, we'll be there as well. Tell us all about it.
Sweet. Yeah, we're doing a Mike, should we talk about it?
Absolutely, go for it. It's our airtime now.
Yeah, so we're doing this sort of meet and greet and dojo event. We're going to do it on Thursday, the second night. We got a great little spot a couple of minutes away from the resort where IT Nation is. So we partnered with Taher at MSP Camp and then Robert Gillette from MSP Dojo. So we're going to have a chance for people who want to meet us to do some like Q&A and talking and stuff. It's going to be sort of MSPs only. But then we have this really kick-ass like sales dojo event that Robert runs where everybody gets to like jump into a bracket and do some like role-playing scenarios. But the whole thing's with an open bar and food and all that stuff. And then we'll kind of climb the bracket and then the finalists will all do a role play on stage. So it's going to be super fun.
If you want to shake off the rust, get through the cobwebs, go through all of the nervous awkwardness of the sales process in a safe environment with your colleagues and friends and booze and free food. It's the event for you.
That makes it a lot safer, the booze.
That's right. That gets everyone's like jitters out and you can really like immerse yourself.
Yeah.
Loop through objections, see how other people are looping through objections, because that's the hard part about sales is like getting through that awkward phase and talking to people like a regular person.
Exactly.
I love that, like a regular person. It's hard, man. It's hard to talk to people like a regular person.
Yeah.
When we're on screens, man. We're on screens and we're talking about technology. It's tough.
And it's exactly. I think IT Nation, you go there to like get information, but a lot of people also just go there to just kind of cut loose and not be in the office. But if you're trying to like pack actual business add value into your IT Nation trip to make it worth it, that's the goal for us. That's awesome. Have a drink or three while you're at it.
There you go. Well, it'll be exciting to see you there. It'll be a lot of fun as well, and I think very worthwhile for all of us.
Yeah.
If you guys want to go ahead and do your introductions really quick, and then we can talk about the topic of the day or whatever else we got going on. Our control.
Sure. Mike, you want to introduce yourself first?
Right on. My name is Michael Bakaic, founder of Iceberg Cyber. There are only two ways to grow your business. Get more clients, earn more from each client. At Iceberg, we help you use cybersecurity and our cyber scores to achieve both of those. And I look forward to at least talking about the earn more per client during the show.
Yeah. And I have a company my name is Brian Gillette. I have a company called Feel Good MSP. I'm the end-to-end sales development program for managed services where you don't just learn how to get the phone to ring, but you also learn what to say when the phone does ring, get your closing rate to 50%, charge more, feel better while you do it, all that good stuff.
Awesome. All right. And then I'm Zach with Fort Mesa. We help you own your customer's cybersecurity roadmap. And we've got Matthew Fish here as well, who's doing a little bit of troubleshooting for us. He's our founder. Matt, are we going to be able to jump into the control here shortly, or what do you think our timetable here is?
Sorry, guys. I couldn't find the meeting. It was hiding. Let's jump into control of the day here. All right. So with that, I'll cue it up. So this week is CIS Controls version 8, Control Domain 1. I know we've done a bunch of these before, but we've been sort of randomly skipping around the control domains. Today we're going to start in what the Center for Internet Security and pretty much every other cybersecurity framework says is the most important place to start in cybersecurity, which is to find all your things. Create an inventory of enterprise assets, is what they say. Following this, they have a control domain around then identifying your software and finding your data. But at the very beginning, you need to find all of your things. So when we say enterprise assets, CIS's definition is pretty much a device. It's usually a thing you can touch. It could be everything from an office phone to a mobile phone to a laptop to a server to anything that you can touch in the real world. But it also covers things that are in the virtual world, perhaps in the cloud, like virtual servers, virtual desktops, things that would have an operating system in them. So that's CIS's definition. When you know where your things are, you can then build protections around it. Is the theory. So, if anyone's not familiar with CIS, just a little bit of background here. They have all of their controls split into implementation groups. So they have CIS IG1, Implementation Group 1. They have Implementation Group 2, Implementation Group 3. IG1 is for small businesses or organizations using off-the-shelf components. They probably do not have IT staff. They are probably unregulated. And they certainly don't risk human life and limb if there's a failure in security. CIS IG2 is probably for your larger small business or medium-sized organization. They typically do not have regulated data, but if they're very small, they may have some regulated data if it's not high risk. That is, it doesn't impact someone's health, safety if there's a security failure. Those IG2 organizations usually have dedicated IT staff, and you're going to see the interventions in security are going to be related to the fact that there's actual people there to coax their systems into functioning. But those organizations may actually also have custom business software or core business software, line of business software. They may have custom IT that's not like Microsoft Office that they need custom security built around. Now, CIS IG3, that's for your larger or highly regulated organizations. Certainly, any organization that has a lot to lose and could impact human safety, or there could be a lot of downside, or if it's highly regulated because you're in critical infrastructure, or there's some laws that say you have to have a certain level of minimum security, you're probably in that IG3 bucket. Those interventions oftentimes require dedicated cybersecurity talent. So here on device asset inventory, the most important thing that every business needs to have are these IG1 interventions. So CIS 1.1 and 1.2, respectively, that's detail a asset inventory, and then after you've created that asset inventory, address unauthorized assets. And when they say address, usually what they mean is removing them from the network, but there may be other things you have to do. Maybe you'll find that device is unauthorized just because you don't know about it. But then you look at that and then you say, well, actually, it does serve a business function, and then you would authorize it, right? So make the list of things, decide what is the list of things that are in your network or your data space. And then for those things that are unauthorized, figure out how you can remove the things that are unauthorized or authorize them. So that's something every business should do. It's literally the most important thing you can do in cybersecurity. And if you are not doing that basic thing of understanding where all your things are and whether they're supposed to be connected to your network or your data systems or not, you're not doing cybersecurity. Now, following on that, IG2 interventions, use some kind of discovery tool. So CIS 1.3 and 1.4 are both about discovery. 1.3 is an active discovery tool. So that's anything that can scan a network. And I know Mike's pretty familiar with that space. We've worked in that space as well at Fort Mesa. An active discovery tool typically scans around, and then it'll return metadata on that device. Hey, we found a switch. Hey, we found it has this operating system, or it might be, hey, we found this computer, and here's some information about that computer, so that you can then integrate that into an inventory. 1.4 is for dynamic host logging. So the idea there is that when you plug something into the network, the very act of attaching to the network or connecting to Wi-Fi is going to add it to an inventory. And that's something that requires some advanced integrations. I wouldn't be entirely surprised, though, to see if this control transmutes into something that doesn't involve DHCP in the near future. A lot of organizations, in this post-COVID world are dealing with the fact that they don't necessarily control the device that gives IP addresses away anymore because their employees are scattered all over the planet. Now, 1.5 is another asset discovery tool. This is passive asset discovery. The reason this is in the IG3 bucket is because it's quite difficult, actually, to do passive discovery. You need to stick some kind of appliance on a network. It needs to sniff traffic that's coming through and somehow determine that, oh, there's a unique device on this network that's sending traffic through. Usually that's attached to some kind of IPS or IDS product. It's expensive. It's much, much easier just to walk around the office and make lists of things. So with that, that's it on CIS version 8 IG1, CIS version 8 Control Group 1. If any of you want to chime in here, I mean, this is like basically the simplest part of cybersecurity, so I'm not sure it needs explanation. But Mike, this is like literally your world, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of technical value that we provide with our cyber report and risk monitoring that really plays off this foundation. Like, have your inventory, goes to the know what you got type of mindset, basic checklist. My camera's freaking out on my side. Hopefully you don't see me turning
You
into the
look
Matrix.
beautiful
But
over here.
okay. So you can achieve this with a clipboard. You can achieve this with an Excel spreadsheet. There are fancy vendor tools like mine that can do this for you automatically. But really what we're talking about is making a list with the devices
Checking it
that are in your
twice.
scope. You pull the Santa Claus and check it twice, and you stay on top of it. What metadata is, where it came from, when was the last time it was updated, is the core point where we're trying to drive towards here. Patching is one of the three boring basics of cybersecurity. MFA, data backup, patching. You keep stuff patched, you're going to head off a lot of headaches when it comes to operations and security.
Thanks for that, Mike. Well, shall we jump into the topic of the day?
Let's do it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Let's do it.
Well, we talked about, Mike and I were talking, when was that? Whenever we came on last, and Mike and I were both here, and we had this star-crossed moment where we met, and we were like, oh, I feel like we should talk more about these things together. But we were talking about how MSPs should be charging more money. Like, that's just a universal truth that I see all around the world. It's not exclusive to US. It's not exclusive to UK. MSPs, you should probably be charging more money tomorrow, not in 5 years when you build something. So Mike and I were talking about that, and we came up with 3 kind of big ideas to help you, not only on the practical side, but I think a lot of this is covering the mental position around the price point, isn't it, Mike? Like, we're not going to give you just a bunch of new tools that you need to add to your stack to charge more. You should be charging more for what you're already doing. So I want to talk about my first point. The first point, Mike, I really want to hear what your opinion is on this too. I would argue that 100 and 110 are the same number on a balance sheet. People will oftentimes, entrepreneurs will set this bright line in their head based off, I started charging at $145 a seat, and then I kind of backfilled it with what I think should go in a stack. And 6 years later, I'm still charging $145 a seat. I can't charge $165 a seat because then somebody will call me and say, hey, this seems about $20 too high. Mm-hmm. But it's this line that we invent. It's a self-imposed, bright line or self-imposed restriction that is
a glass ceiling.
It's a glass ceiling that we create based off of historical things. But the customer is not going to say, hey, but didn't you charge $145 last year? I did some digging and found your old pricing sheets. They don't even have that information. And even if they did, none of their freaking business. What you charge today is what you charge.
I would love to, if I was an MSP in that situation, I would love to ask the client about if their prices ever change. Because I think we're in a world where inflation is people's prices are changing,
Right. Like I'm not gonna pull an atlas and carry the weight of the world to try to bring down the inflation on behalf of humankind. Like it's not gonna happen, Anyway, Mike, what do you think?
Before I kick off, I one of my bullet points at the beginning was to level set with the audience. A lot of what we're going to talk today, you probably already know. So appreciate that constructively. When it comes to sales, Brian and I learn every day. We're still reading the books every day. Most of what goes into our minds is reminding us stuff that we already know. We need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And the sort of ground and pound we're going to go through today is along those lines. So this is stuff you've heard before.
Hey guys, I ran an MSP for a while, and I wasn't doing. I think in some ways I was very lucky because I had a very pointed vertical. I bracketed the engagement really closely around my kernel of value, which was I'm going to bring you a strategic plan for growing your high growth business, and here's the core system you need. And if you need anything that's not core system, you figure it out. I'm going to focus on the backbone of your organization, this business application. And when I structured those engagements, they hired me because they wanted my experience. They wanted the value that I was bringing to the table, which is I know how to build and grow these systems. And for some of these contracts, I put in 20% year over year increases. They would come to me and say, this sounds like a ridiculous increase, 20% year over year. I can't do that in 5 years. And I would basically say to them, well, you bought me for strategic, positioning. So look, if you don't need me in 3 years, great. We've accomplished our goal. And they might come back to the table in a year or two and say, try to renegotiate the rates. I was in a much different negotiating position when they say, hey, your rates have gone up too high. I know you told me they were going to go up higher, but now I'd really like to keep you. I think that a lot of MSPs, they feel like they can't ask for more money because they think the client will leave, right? I happen to have this type of practice where I would tell them on day one, my job is that you don't need me in 5 years, right? We're going through some kind of strategic pivot, right? But people come to the table with different value equations. In all those value equations, the client it brought you to the table and put you in an incredible position of authority and trust because they know you can do it and they know you're valuable, right? So this idea of not being able to raise prices, I think the only time your customer won't accept the price increase is if they really don't think you're valuable, right?
Yeah.
Let me spin off those points back because you must have read our show notes because you just covered 2 of our 3 reasons. So the 2 reasons in summary are we all run businesses. We got to sell our value. We're not selling a commodity. We don't sell products. We don't sell line items. We sell the value and the experience of the desired outcome that the clients want to pay for. Hold that close and remember that. Because if you're just reselling products, the client is going to try to drive to the lowest price and you become a commodity. And that's when it becomes painful because inside that you're not just reselling products. You're not a commodity merchant. You're providing them a valuable experience. That's got to be foremost in the conversations that you have with them. So you're not just saying, hey, I'm going to resell you Microsoft licenses. You're going to say, I'm going to provide you a seamless way to communicate with all of your clients. If your employees ever have problems, I'm going to be right there 24/7 to handle it with tech support. That's an experience. That's a stress-free way to drive their business. Or you could say, I'll sell you Microsoft Outlook licenses. And then they'll just go to the person that can sell that the cheapest. So point number 2 in reverse order, you're selling on value. You're not a commodity. and embody that in your conversation. And the second thing that Matt said was, if you find your strong niche where there's a starving crowd, that's when you can really focus your value for that unique experience. In Canada, we call it niche. I know the Americans call it niche, and the riches are in the niches in this
Right.
case. So if you find an area which you know well, or you think there's a great opportunity, you don't need to have 20 years of experience into it. You just need to package your value uniquely for them, and drive that to the potential client and say, if you're talking to law firms, we have this great package specifically for law firms. We know all of the aspects of your business. This is how you talk to your clients. This is how we protect your data when you're doing these whatever transactions. They feel it's personalized. Now they're not comparing you as a commodity against someone else that can sell Microsoft licenses. They're comparing you against any other person that's talking about being the stress-free IT for law firms person. Who else does that? Another person on this show. But there you go, combining selling on value and focusing on your niche gives you a 1-2 punch that can really help you drive more prices, more earning more per client.
100%. Like people, I have this conversation a lot actually at my webinars, because it's like generalist versus specialist is like an age-old debate, right? Which is better? And if you want to know a great argument for the one you disagree with, just post your argument on LinkedIn, and then you'll get 40 comments about everybody who has the other position, and they'll say you're wrong and this is why you're wrong. And I actually don't really ever want to try to convince somebody to cross that fence, other than what I'll tell you is, here's what I say at my workshops. I have a workshop called Equip Your Sales Team to Book New MRR Every Month Without Changing Your Tech Stack. If I called that workshop, Grow Your Business with Sales Guru Brian Gillette, no one would show up, even if the syllabus was exactly the same, because it's so vague. You see what I mean? If I'm like, real estate agents, dentists, marine biologists, all come and grow your business together in one catch-all webinar, they'd be like, no, there's no way this guy knows anything, because he's claiming to know everything. So as soon as I said, this is an MSP specific book MRR without changing your tech stack workshop, all of a sudden MSPs can understand, or they can paint a picture in their head of something specific they could get out of it. Right. And that's not just a message on how important copywriting is. It's a message of how important it is to have a super clear outcome. And niching down is an amazing way of making your outcome more clear.
Well, I would love to tag on to that, if you don't mind. I think
Please.
you're exactly right that when you get more specific, when you speak directly to a specific audience, they're more liable to hear you. When you take the time to understand somebody's needs and then can, present them solutions to those needs, they're like, oh, great. This is something that's for me. And there's a lot of things out there. And businesses need to know that what they're choosing for themselves is going to work for them. Right. And in their process. So I think that's a great call out, you guys. I love that.
Let me tack on with a little growth hack. This comes up often. This is not the first time the audience has heard the riches and the niches thing. If you're hesitant on it, here's the growth hack. It's not that you have to tell the rest of your prospects to leave you alone. It's not that you have to get rid of your clients if they're not in the one vertical. You can easily experiment with this by making like stress-free IT for law firms as a package, right?
Yeah.
If an accountant calls you, they're not going to say, "Oh my gosh, this MSP only does law firms." No, to the accountant, say, "We got a stress-free IT package just for accountants."
Mike, are you trying to tell me that we're going to have to create a whole new thing?
Yes.
It's just a package headline, right?
Okay.
In most cases, they're going to get the same product stack from you.
A lot of it's going to be similar, and you're going to speak to it differently.
Right, because the client is not buying the product stack. The client's buying the experience. They want stress-free IT for lawyers because they're lawyers. So tell them, this is a stress-free IT tailored to law firms. What does it take to tailor to a law firm? You just got to like give the emotion, learn a little bit about what a law firm needs. You probably already know,
Put it on
and
the
tell it to them like
website.
that.
Put it on the
You can
website. Put a gavel above the button.
That's right.
Right,
You can
there you
easily
go.
make a one-page landing page. And
Right.
if you're running Google Ads or you're doing some cold email campaign, have them come to the Stress-Free IT for Law Firms landing page. It's not a lie. You're not deceiving anyone. This is the package for lawyers. You may also have a package for accountants. That's okay. No one's gonna be opposed to that. If
They'd be
they say,
opposed to it if you showed up to your package for accountants and then didn't have the knowledge necessary to do that.
yeah,
They would oppose that for sure. But as long as you've taken the time to like whoever you're speaking to,
that's right. You
know
have to
what
have
it-
genuine value for them. But like you're running your MSP already. You have genuine value to deliver. You're already
Right,
delivering it to your
exactly.
clients. We're not talking about like scrapping what you're doing now and reframing it. We're just talking about presenting it in the desired outcome that they want to hear. They want the bulletproof security package for accountants. So tell it to them like that. And by
I
doing
love
so, you make it valuable to them, and that's what they want.
I love they want. I love thinking about it in terms of what they want because it's so
Yes.
important, and we get so stuck all the time. And well, we need this or we need that, or I want the customer to do this. It's so good. I love hearing that, thinking about what they want. Because if you consider what they want and you make a genuine effort towards that, I mean, when somebody tries to do something that I want, that feels nice, right? And
Right.
I
And
think
that's what
I think
selling is. Selling
Exactly.
is solving. And it is not fruitful for you to try to decide what other people want from you. It's meaningless.
Yeah.
You need to ask them what they want and then give it to them better than anybody else, or really the best that you can. And then guess what? You're running a very successful business. But value, we're using this word value. It's important to remember this definition that value is in the eye of the prospect. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I don't actually get to tell you how much I'm worth. You have to decide that I am worth what I'm asking. So I can do that with a great narrative, leading questions, good discovery process, but it's ultimately your idea to hire me or not. I'm not going to make a persuasive argument and you go, I don't really want to work with you, but you've been so incredibly articulate that points to the affirmation, I'm going to purchase your product now. That's not how humans work.
Wait, guys. So I know you're making this sound like super easy, and I know what you're saying. But how do you know what they want, right? Like, so I was in consulting for a long time, and I used the consultative sale model, right?
Uh-huh.
It was very comfortable for me. So this idea, I'm going to use the jargon word, right? Discovery was part of the consultative sale model. But if you're an MSP, well, let me back up. A lot of MSPs are selling transactionally, right? So, and maybe that's the best model for them. And if it is, where does discovery come in? How do you know what a lawyer needs?
You ask a bunch of lawyers.
Ask them.
Yeah, you got to talk to them.
I know
Ask
it's that simple, right? You ask them without the
it
leading
is.
questions, right?
Go back to the opening. Like, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. There's no like magical psychological formula here. Have confidence in that. There's no like trick that Brian knows that'll get you 1,000 people paying you money tomorrow. The basic tactic here is put yourself out there. You present your strong niche because you got a good instinct that you can provide them good value. They got a pain, you can provide them value. You're selling on value, and you go out there and you talk to them. Warm outreach, cold outreach. Get into a conversation like this. Ask them what they're doing for IT now. If they say, our IT's fine. We got a great price, never any stress. We never need to talk about tech support. Good. Say, great to meet you. Do you know anyone else that's having problems with IT? And move on to the next prospect. Because you're going to encounter a ton of people that don't need your services.
I love that
Don't
too.
feel
You're
ashamed
so
about
direct.
that.
You're so direct. Hey, are you having this problem? No? Oh, great. Well, now I'm not going to waste my time. That's awesome.
I think I go through this too. I'm sure a ton of people have the frustration in sales where they think, I can't get this person to give me their money. I can't flip them. My loops don't work. They just have too many objections. It's okay to recognize that they don't need you. They may not have a pain that needs you.
Right.
So, like, in your mind, cross that frustration out. It's not frustrating. The learning lesson there is you're updating your criteria on how to pre-qualify them because you should have rejected them earlier. So if they say, I don't have a pain, Brian, I'm fine, really. I don't have a pain with IT. Okay, great. Hey, do you know any lawyers that do have problem with IT? Because I provide great stress-free IT for lawyers. Do you know any other lawyers? Yeah, I
And
might
then
know
if
some
this
lawyers.
guy ever has issues with IT,
Yeah.
well, man, I'm a lawyer and I'm having IT. I'm looking for something stress-free that's going to solve this. And then
You
All
got to
right, so
turn over a lot of rocks. You know, like that's the process of sales. It's like doing it 100 times for 100 days. Then you start making progress. Because if you set your expectations really high and say every lawyer that I talk to, I'm going to sell them IT, you're going to be disappointed because not every lawyer that you talk to needs IT. They may have another MSP already.
they may
You may
do
not
IT
be
in their spare time.
Sure, but this
You
is
don't,
a
you
lot
don't
of
know who you're
people-
talking to, right? You don't know.
A lot of people have IT
Yeah.
problems, but they don't necessarily label them mentally as IT problems. And
Mhm.
so I think the technologists in our crowd, right, often ask technical, do you have problems with IT? Right?
Right.
But you should really be asking, how's your life going, Joe? What's it
Right.
like day in the office? How's Jen doing out front? What's her day like? What's that big stack of paper over there? Right?
Mhm.
Right.
And ... Oh, that can be fixed with IT, and we have the product for that, is oftentimes like a dawning moment of, wait, I had a client once. I went down to their office to do an onboard, and it's stuck in my brain ever since. They had a person who spent 20 hours a week, whose job was to receive. She printed out on one computer and then walked across the room and scanned in on another computer.
Nice.
And the business owner had no idea that was happening, that it was taking 20 hours a week,
They must have
because
loved
no
that.
one asked her.
Right.
And she didn't think it was a problem. She was happy like doing that. Turns out that was solved with a document management system, and now that person has time to like be awesome with the clients, right?
Mhm.
So Matt, this goes back to, I think we have to have a chiropractic adjustment of the definition of value. Value is what the client gets because they work with you. Value is not the product that you sell them. That's in marketing, that's called your mechanism. So there's a difference between your outcomes and your mechanisms. And MSPs, because engineers fundamentally think differently than salespeople. That's why I spend an entire month on sales philosophy. Before I tell them a single script word, it's like, I got to rewire the way you freaking listen, because you listen wrong. Because you listen to solve, because if an IT guy's on a discovery call and they go, yeah, this printer isn't working, the IT guy goes, oh, I'll fix it. And he fixes it. And then they go, wow, well, thanks so much. Have a good day. And the sales guy goes, oh, it's not working. How long have you been working on it? What are you going to do about it? What did your IT guy say when you sent that to him? Oh, he didn't answer the ticket. How long has it been in? Now, you see what I'm saying? Don't get in there and try to solve the problem. We actually have to use their pain to leverage getting them over all their hurdles that have stopped them from fixing the problem.
Well, if you don't mind me interrupting, or if you're on a flow, keep going. I've already interrupted. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's okay. Let me finish I want to finish the value thought. That,
do it.
I don't want to throw our commenter under the bus, but Jeffrey, I really appreciate your ideas you're throwing in here. But Jeff says, if you're selling the same thing, to everyone. You're selling cyber and the package of security. I actually am not going to agree with you. You're using the same mechanism to sell something different to each person. If you work at a rope store, you don't sell rope. You sell tire swings, nets, jungle gyms. You sell whatever else the hell you can make out of rope. You sell days sail out on the sailboat. That's what you sell. And they get that thing because they bought your rope.
Mhm.
And
That's the end experience that's trying to get.
Right. And so ask the business, like Matt said, how is the business going? Hey, how are you guys on track this year? We're behind. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Anything you think of that's in the way? I got staffing issues. Tell me more. Whatever. Find those issues. And then what we're describing is what I call narrative tunneling. Narrative tunneling is about connecting a super clean point between what you sell and what they need. So this idea, Mike had, of verticalizing your sort of splash pages, you could run an almost identical campaign, but then you're going to slightly change the outcomes and the psychographics based on vertical. And then they're all going to land back in the same schedule for you. You're going to run a slightly different discovery call with slightly different questions, but you are selling something different to each of them using the same tool set or the same mechanism. See what I mean? Like you own a forklift, but you can move anything with a forklift. You can move anything that could fit on that forklift. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have a specific forklift for soda and another one for widgets, you know? That's just the tool you use to move their stuff where it needs to go. So I had another thought, but Zach,
I'll just tie one thing in really quickly. You were talking about, you were describing the printer and then the ticket and the, traveling down the situation and finding, well, what's causing this to be an issue. And in my past career, what we call that is identifying the root problem. So, if you have a team and they are never staffed, the problem isn't staffing usually, right? You can usually hire people. There's usually a root problem, like, I don't know, whatever crazy humorous solution I could present. But anyway, I love that you called that out, and solving their root problem is always going to be more valuable, because the issue of the printer being down isn't the issue in the business.
Right.
But anyway, keep going.
Right. Why has your printer been broken for 6 days?
Exactly.
That's the question. Not
why are you still asking?
Yeah, exactly. Not like, oh, it was a port forwarding issue. That's not the answer. The answer is because I don't trust my IT guy, so I don't like calling him. There's your real problem.
Yeah.
That we can resolve that. Yeah, you're 100% right. Finding the root. Yeah, I know I'm just sort of going and going, but I wanted to circle back.
Good stuff.
Go ahead, Matt.
That root cause stuff. I like 5 whys, guys. Does anyone know 5 whys?
You mentioned it recently, or somebody else mentioned it recently, and it's on my to-do list.
So when that customer's printer is broken, right? Like, you can probably find a list of things that have gone wrong that resulted in their printer being down for 6 days, right?
Right.
And the reason it's 5 whys is because, like, at some point you have to stop with the why. But the idea is, well, why is the printer broken? Like, well, I don't know. There was a paper jam and someone like sprung a clip. I don't know, when they were trying to get the paper out. And then it's like, well, why did that happen? They didn't call the IT guy because they didn't trust him. Well, why did that happen? The IT guy screwed up last year. Like, right. And you go back, and those are all things that the customer is going to respond to, right? They understand all of those problems, right? And that should be part of the discovery process. Each one of those then becomes ammo for you, right? When you go to sell.
Right. 100%. Mike, I wanted to hear your thought on this too. Just to round out the niching conversation, a lot of MSPs just fundamentally object with verticalizing. But why not? I mean, what are your thoughts on, we would call that vertical niching. There's also horizontal niching. So rather than just getting into a niche of a specific industry, how about you niche down to a specific use case, or a specific, even I would argue you could niche into demographics, psychographics, or use cases. So you help businesses who are in a specific moment of business development. Like the founder is just hired their first sales rep. Mm-hmm. That business has really unique challenges regardless of industry. Yeah. Fair? So
totally.
Can you become, hey, we are the digital transformation centric MSP. Boom. That's a use case, right? Like, what are your thoughts on niching down the other direction?
I think the fundamental tactic that we're going for here is concentrating time and concentrating your attention. We're trying to distill, I sell everything to everyone, to a small enough scope so that you can focus enough time to build a good value prop for those targets. If we stick with the law firm thing, we provide stress-free IT for lawyers. If you put that into a little box, that gives you an easier chance to learn enough about the experience of a law firm, ask them similar questions, so you get to a point where if you walk into a law firm, you know their experience, you know the right questions to ask.
Right.
You know they probably have a pain. You know the right narrative, like Brian said, to get to the point where they explain it to you. And it comes from focusing your mental effort to just think about law firms for a bit. If you're hesitant on it, that's fine. You can choose 5. You probably don't have 70 clients in 70 different verticals. You probably don't, because that would be a headache.
Right.
So find some commonalities, whether they're horizontal or they're vertical, and like we're talking about with the inventory, just put it down on paper. What do all of your legal clients have in common? Let's think about that. Let's spitball on that and draft this into a little profile. So next time you run into a law firm, you can say, what's your printer issues? How are you transacting private documents to clients? How do they know that they can trust to send you their important information? Ask questions like that, because you know enough about lawyers. And when we say like know enough about lawyers, you just need to know enough to have this type of conversation. And then you have 100 of these types of conversations. Some of them will go poorly. Sometimes the lawyers will call you out and say, you don't know anything about lawyers. Okay, so my bad. On to the next one.
Yeah.
Give me the next one up in the row, and you take notes from that, and you slowly get better. And the whole point of like going with the niche or like focusing on something is to just focus your time so you can become just a little bit better in this thing until you get good enough, and maybe you have multiple verticals, whatever.
So let me ask you guys a question. So for the last 10 years, there's been some big thought leaders in our space telling service providers, make everything a bundle, and then you can sell more of everything all at once, right? And there's reasons why you want to bundle things. You want to maybe perhaps disconnect the value equation from the technical products, right? That makes sense. Is to make value-oriented selling. But for people that don't know how to do that discovery process, to create their bundle ends up just looking like a pile of products that they already sold itemized, right? So, sometimes I think that this idea that this advice they're getting to put everything into a bundle is sometimes antithetical to, well, this should be vertical niched or horizontal niched, right? That it should be specific. So how is that reconciled? How should people figure out how to reconcile those two pieces of advice that I don't think are really in conflict, right? But they sound like they're irreconcilable, right? On the surface, this idea that a standard bundle for everyone is like the complete opposite of what you're saying.
Right. It's like, well, but every client is a snowflake, and how do we make it so that I think 100%. I think what you're saying is actually, there's some validity to it. I think on the first hand, what you have to do is accept that part of verticalizing or niching down is you want to sell the best option to that niche, right? Do you have things that will help a lawyer more than they would help somebody else? You should just have it in your stack,
and be able to cut to it.
Yes, but cannibalizing your service offering is like this race to death, where you start like picking things out to save them $4 a user. So I think rather than having like a bespoke proposal for every single meeting, I recommend splitting the difference in having a modular service offering. So you have a certain set of tools that you might sell in a very specific situation. I think modules are better than bronze, silver, gold, because bronze, silver, gold will inevitably shoehorn somebody into either not enough or too much, or at least that's their narrative. Versus, can you just have like a lawyer stack? And, is there a specific tool for a certain level of a certain size that needs to be added? And then you say, yeah, I can't remove the like law secure TM from your quote because you're a lawyer and you have to have it. Versus if you just say, and buy all this other shit from me, and then they're going to line item it and go, well, hang on, what is that? Do I really need that? So you can't give them control over how you get them the outcome, but you should consider having something like that.
In our sales playbook, we recommend, this is like the universal generic advice, right? Which is not right for everyone. It's bronze, silver, and 4 different golds, right? With the idea being you have to have bronze. Some of your people are going to want silver. I don't call them bronze and silver. And then there's 4 different potential upsells that are different value items. They're not on top of each other. They're parallel to each other. They address different pain points on the top end of the security selling scale. And I think that, if you're going to split the difference, you do need to work up your bundles, but you need to draw the lines in places where you can do that and say, well, a dentist office is different than a tire shop, and you don't need the HIPAA package in the tire shop, right?
That's
Right.
right.
Exactly.
Like they're personalized. They're personalized. The main point that Brian said that I want to echo is like, it's great to put your line items like this is what you get plus this, add on this plus this. But what you want those to be are the outcomes that they want to achieve, not the things that you're just marking up to sell them. Because then they're going to look at that and say, "Oh, if that's plus $4, I need to save $4." So like scrap the dollar signs on there and say like, or you're saying like, I'm adding on $1,000 value per month to get you that lawyer secure email package. That's the outcome they want. We want our emails to be secure. Great. We want to have secure conversations with our clients. Great. That's a valuable outcome. But to say like, we need to add this email secure gateway and it's cost $4 per client per seat per month, they're gonna say, I got a cut budget. I can't have that. And they're gonna pick on it. And you give them the opportunity to pick on it. So like make your bundle, make it personalized to them, because a dentist is different than a law firm, is different than a car mechanic. And they don't want to think that they're paying for legal IT, because they're not. They're paying for dentist IT. It's going to be different. It's a great idea to put them like break out your bundle. So it's not just this is $4,500 a month for legal IT. You're getting legal IT plus $500 extra value for this, plus $500 extra value for this. So they see all of the great value adds, but in the perspective of the outcomes that they're getting, not just the things you sell them, because they don't want to buy stuff from you. They want to achieve their outcomes. So tell it to them like that. These are the outcomes I'm giving you. This is what you're going to achieve. Forget about what I'm selling you. This is what you're going to achieve.
Totally. Nailed it.
Ooh, we better be recording this.
Yeah.
Well, so
We're definitely doing that.
yeah. How long was that snip?
Yeah. Let's do this one more time with the record button on. Go ahead, Mike, whenever you're ready. Should we, should we cover our third point? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait, there was 3 points,
let me
right?
get to the third point. Okay,
Yeah.
so we talked about riches are in the niches. It's great. It's not some like secret mojo box. It's really just telling you, if the more you focus your time and attention, the better your value proposition can be. So try it. Don't like rewrite your whole business model. Just experiment with something simple. Start with a small step and then do it. What was the second one? Sell on value. Sell on value, not on commodity. If you're racing another MSP to be the cheapest MSP in your area, you're both going to get to a point where you're working for minimum wage for yourself. So don't do that. Sell on value. That means tell the client the outcomes they're going to achieve. The experiences that they're going to have are what you're giving them, not the stuff that you're selling. The third point that we wanted to cover is more like basic ground level, is to know what the playing field is. And we've got some pricing stats that we took from ConnectWise report that they presented at ChannelCon on like what other MSPs are selling. Because in my personal experience talking to our MSPs, they're under the average simply because they didn't know that everyone else was getting on board with selling on value. And now they're just naturally the cheapest in their area, which is great for their clients that are trying to buy on commodity, but they're leaving a lot on the table. The rule of thumb here that we're trying to get everyone to that are selling valuable services is to hit the 80% gross margin point, which means whatever your cost to deliver, your gross cost to deliver per client per month, you're charging 4 times that. So if you're in our basic things here, if you're doing stress-free IT package, we go for the lawyers, stress-free IT for lawyers, you charge $150 per seat. You want to get to the point where you're at 4x cost to deliver. So you got to be down at $30 per seat to deliver, and that's getting you your 80% gross margin. This is what everyone should be aiming for. When you're selling on value, when you're taking advantage of the riches and the niches, this is what you can achieve.
Yes. And does that, it's okay if you don't know the answer to this, Mike, but is that a fully absorbed where you're sinking the labor of the tech team, of the like help desk team?
This would be like your gross margin to deliver. So this is not like your office rent or admin or accounting services. This is
just
like
on the stack costs.
Stack costs, technician time, gas to drive out to do the on-site. That's what you're delivering. 80% gross margin. So
Right.
ConnectWise had some data where they presented where like the typical stress-free IT bundles were in that 3 to 5x range. And then when you get onto the managed security services and you can provide even more value, helping with continuity of business, preventing operation downtime, you're hitting more of like the 4 to 7 cost of delivery because you're providing that more emotional value to it. Remember, here's my takeaway. We'll just do it now. For all of your small business clients, I'm talking to the MSPs in the room. For all your small business clients, their business is their single largest investment. They trust you to protect that. That's their baby. And you're there protecting their baby. Especially when you're talking about providing IT services. Every business runs with IT now. So you're their lifeblood. When you add on cybersecurity, you're the protective security card, making sure no one gets to their baby.
So before we run out of time, guys, wait. First of all, did we hit all three? Is that?
Those were our three. Know the playing
Those were our
field,
three.
riches in the niches, sell on value.
Protect your baby.
Yeah.
Protect that baby.
So Brian, this is like the stuff you eat and breathe, right? And Mike, I think you get really involved with your partners, right? That are learning
That's
to
right.
sell that vulnerability management value chain. So do you guys just want to talk about like the type of experience you have with your clients for a moment? And just so people know what you do. Like, what is it like to?
Well, I go through these conversations with my clients. The product that we sell is a cyber risk monitoring, vulnerability monitoring type of product. It's a tech product. But the MSPs that we work with, they're not coming to me because they want to buy a product and then resell it. They're coming to me because they want to protect the baby that is their client's small business, and I help them do that. That's why they pay me, not because I sell a product to them and they resell it. So the conversations that I have with them are the same conversations that I encourage them to have with their clients, because that's how they're going to deliver high value to their clients.
Yeah,
and because I love talking about it, we get into it. Like we call them MSP partners for a reason. We're partners. Yesterday I spent 6 hours on the phone with our clients because I want to know how it's going with them. I want to know the conversations they're having with their clients so that we can soak it up upstream, feed that as value into their tool belt so they can feed it down to their clients.
Yep.
I got to commend Mike on that. That you're like one of the vendors who actually partners with your partners instead of just saying partner as an excuse to try to like just get more in their business.
To say partner instead of
just
client.
say customer. A lot of you people just say customer. You're not partnering. You're just selling, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with the customer.
Yep.
But just call. But I just wanted to give Mike a kudos that he really like means what he says. He spends a lot of his time and energy personally invested into the success of his customers. There's cheaper and easier ways, guys, for Mike to do that, and he does it the way he wants to.
Dude, yesterday was 6 hours on the phone. I kid you not. 6 hours on the phone and like eating crow because I was asking people, what don't you like about the product? What are your clients not liking about it? What am I not doing right? And just like soaking it in, taking notes till my keyboard catches on fire to say, okay, yeah, give me all of this information because this is great. Let me go back. We're going to work on it. I'm going to make it better for you. It's going to be better for your clients. You're going to be happier.
Yes.
And it's emotional to listen to that for 6 hours, but that's the most valuable thing to get because my MSP partners are invested in making their clients happy. I'm invested in making them happy, and together we got to do that as a team.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I don't sell a tech product. I sell an end-to-end sales process development program. Meaning I go in as it's called an accelerator for a reason, because it's pretty non-destructive. I have no interest in like Control-Alt-deleting what other sales and marketing vendors are doing with you. No, I want to leverage them all so that I look like a genius when you start making way more money, because a lot of people have these great tools. They have these marketing ideas, sales concepts, sales licenses for programs they're investing in. They're spending $800 a month on HubSpot, but they're not weaponizing it. They're not like turning it into revenue yet because they don't actually have the process. It's like
they're not yielding the value.
No, they bought a bunch of yellow iron, but now they don't know how to. Doesn't mean you're going to build a building. Like great tools, but you need to know how to use it. So, I mean, my clients in 90 days this year to date, we're seeing like 1.25 net new logos per MSP within 90 days. And we're seeing on average that the average is somewhere between 100 to 200% quicker acquisition rate within 6 months. So the 6 months previous and the 6 months post Feel Good MSP, it's pretty aggressively different because, and it's a few hours a week. Like they're not shutting down their doors and going to a sales temple with me to meditate in the mountains. Like they're doing
Sounds
it
like
real
not
time.
a bad time either.
That would be
Is
great.
a
Can we
package
do
or
that?
what?
Yeah, that'd be
That's the
great.
platinum package.
Yeah, let me
Right,
know when
yeah.
that one's available.
Yeah, I'll
He's
let
like
you
on the
guys-
whiteboard back there now. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
You
Yeah, I
write
mean
that
that's
up,
what we're
Brian.
doing. I
That's
have
pretty
a
awesome.
we have a webinar, or we have a workshop on Monday. The workshop I mentioned, it might be my last workshop of the year, actually.
Can you still sign up for that? Is that like still
Yeah,
sign
it's
upable?
still, registration's still open. feelgoodmsp.com /workshop. There's like 4 seats left, I think. So anybody who would like to come, you're welcome to. And it's just 4.5 hours of me and a group of 10 or less MSPs by design, talking specifically about how to create like a scalable system. So it's high level and detail oriented. This is how you actually build an MSP based on the way I did it.
Well, I'm like charged to go make some sales, guys.
Good.
Great.
We've done our job, Mike. When are we coming back again?
You got to line up your next topic.
January.
What is it?
I mean, whatever.
Well, we talked about, so in the 2 ways to make more money, get more clients, earn more from each client. We talked about earning more from each client. Next one we can do is get more clients.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I could
Let's
talk
do that as the
about
next
how
one.
to turn a phone book into money. I could talk about that for 20 hours.
You're my age, man. You said phone book.
I mean,
I
I
had the
don't
yellow
know.
pages.
So they still get
That's
delivered to
gross,
my
but you're
house,
not.
and the kids are like, "Do we need these things?" And I'm like, "No, throw it away."
No, we deeply don't.
How else do you find the phone number to the local pizza restaurant? I don't know how you guys figured it out.
Right.
All right. I think that's
Well,
it.
yeah, I think that's another one in the books. Mike and Brian, always good to have a chance to chat with you guys. Thank you for the insights. Thanks to everybody who had a chance to watch today. If you haven't checked out our YouTube, please do that. There's some great educational content there. Make sure you like us on LinkedIn. Next week, we have Cyber Sanic. We have Yasmin and Hayden coming on. We're going to do a what's the difference between MDR and XDR. So that'll be a lot of fun. Join us then. Happy weekend, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
See ya.